NRCS provides technical assistance and potentially financial assistance to help landowners address natural resource concerns for all natural resources, from water quality to soil erosion, but we also do a lot of work in non-industrial private forest lands, and that can be from forest stand improvements to improve the commercial productivity of forest lands. It can also be wildlife treatments to improve wildlife habitat within those forest lands.
The majority of the forest land in Tennessee is privately owned, 85 to 95%. So the Tennessee's forest, the fate of Tennessee's forest is dependent on the state's private landowners. So we must be involved and engaged with those private landowners. And what we have to offer, probably our most valued service, is technical assistance. We can visit a landowner's property, help them evaluate that forestry property, and help them identify the options they have in meeting their specific management objectives. We also do offer some financial assistance to help cost share with specific practices. And we also can be a conduit or a liaison to bring in other natural resource professionals if we don't have the expertise on a subject, to get other resource professionals involved, such as wildlife biologists, water quality control experts, other people like that.
You know, our job as private lands biologists is to work with the 90+% part of the state that's privately owned. We work with private landowners who are interested in managing their properties for wildlife. Now that encompasses the whole farm. You know, we tend to focus a lot of our work on open land acres, but as wildlife managers, we can't overlook managing their timbered acres for wildlife. Now, our objectives in managing for wildlife sometimes differ from timber production management goals, but what we're trying to do is come to a happy medium and satisfy both goals. You know, we want to produce food and cover within your wooded acres, but we also want to do it in a manner that sustains that forest and could possibly or potentially produce income for that landowner.
The first step in being able to work cooperatively with other agencies is sort of understand their world. And that's what this event has been designed for the last couple of days, is present the forester's world to biologists and let the biologists present their world to us, see where we can find common ground, also acknowledge those situations to where our different respective objectives or techniques might be mutually exclusive. Those situations do exist, but ultimately we want to understand each other's profession so we can empower landowners with information. And once a landowner has been empowered with that information, they're able to make an informed decision to meet their management objectives. And then once that landowner's decision has been made, as long as it's sound practices that he wants to implement to get to that management objective, we should, as a natural resource community, come together to help that landowner achieve those objectives.
Everybody is really beginning to understand what our goals and objectives are and how we can help each other and work together in reaching and maintaining that goal. I'm from the South, and I can tell you, a good tree, it pains me to cut a big log down, sometimes for the fact that it might produce acorns for deer, or just for the fact that, I don't want to leave that log standing because I know it's worth money. But there's a fine balance there, and with the practices that we're using, we're trying to create food and cover for wildlife in timbered acres. And the majority of Tennessee is forested acres. It's over 50%, and so you can't overlook those acres as a wildlife manager. You really can do a lot of good for particular species in the timber, just with some small practices, some very cost-efficient practices. And the cost share money is out there through the USDA programs and through TWRA programs to implement those practices on your property. And our goal is we are the conduit between that money and those landowners, and we're trying to get better habitat across the landscape.
NRCS was very fortunate to be able to participate in a meeting with Tennessee Division of Forestry and with Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and we went to the field. We've spent a lot of time together looking at the forest resource, and we've come to find out that a lot of the treatments that we prescribe are not only compatible but actually complementary to one another. So really we're all trying to achieve the best for the natural resource with different emphasis in mind.